Yo, what up? This is your boy Rama, and I'm here in Burbank. Just got done watching James Gunn's new movie, Superman. And I want to give you my out of the theater reaction. And since the review embargo already lifted, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to spill spoilers in this video, okay? Spoiler alert. So if you don't want to hear spoiler, stay away from this video. And I like the movie. Love it might be a strong word, but I enjoyed it. The movie does have flaws, which I will mention to you, which I will mention to you soon enough. But let me go through some of the positives first, okay? Uh After having gone through the Snyderverse Superman, not to throw shades at Zack Snyder, but after having gone through that cinematic universe, where it was grim and gloomy and what have you, to go to this, James Gunn Superman, that's colorful and bright and hopeful and optimistic. It's a nice change of scenery. It feels nice. To a certain extent, where the movie is also kind of a feel-good movie. The humor, the heart, and everything. It makes you smile type of a movie. That's what it was. David Corenswet was fantastic. Obviously, Christopher Reeve, the late great Christopher Reeve, will remain the best one out of all of them. But David Corenswet became Superman. And he looked the part, man. I hope he gets to play this character for many years to come, because I didn't see David Corenswet. I saw Superman. That's how good he was. Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane was also fantastic. Feisty and the type of Lois Lane fierceness that you would expect from that iconic character. She's got it. Rachel nailed it. Jimmy Olsen, this depiction of Jimmy Olsen by Skylar, I think that's his name. The way the character is written is so funny, because he's like a playboy without realizing it, or maybe he realizes that he's got that charm, but he's using it for just to become better journalist. It's hilarious. I mean, in a way, this Jimmy Olsen kind of reminds me of Will Ferrell from that movie, The Other Guys. Remember that? Co-starring Mark Wahlberg, where Will Ferrell's character attracts hot females, sexy women, without even trying. that's part of the joke about well, not joke, the humor, I should say, or the appeal about this version of Jimmy Olsen. Not a lot on the Perry White. I like when that actor Wendell Pierce. Unfortunately, his scenes is very minor, barely felt. So yeah, those are some of the characters. Oh, Lex Luthor. Oh my God, Nicholas Hoult, man. Oh, he was scary. Now, I think he might be my second favorite Lex Luthor, next to Michael Rosenbaum from Smallville. That remains my number one. No offense to the late great Gene Hackman, but he falls under number 3 for me, because his version of Lex Luthor was too comical. But this one, Nicholas Hoult, woo, he went all in on this, the viciousness of Lex Luthor, and how he just like wanted to crush Superman. He was so driven, and the expressions on Nicholas's face were just so deliciously evil, man. Like, he was really motivated. And man, Nicholas, yeah, I think his performance as Lex Luthor is gonna go down as one of this year's best on-screen villains. The Crypto, the dog, cute. I'm not a pet owner. I'm not a dog owner. A lot of dog moms and dog dads out there would be able to relate to that better than I can. Because a lot of the times crypto can also be a bit too much. Maybe that's just my opinion as a non dog owner. Um, but he had his badass moment, so credit where credit is due. Now, on to the not so positive parts, or maybe I should say the weak parts of the film, and that is the themes. It's kind of a well, again, it's spoilers, right? So there's this thing between two countries, conflict that kind of resembles Gaza and Israel war, or resembles Ukraine Russia war, however you want to, which would take your pick. So it's a bit on the nose, it's Captain Obvious. At the same time, though, it's also a bit undercooked. There's no build up to that. So there's some context missing. You don't really feel for the people's flight, the people's plight, the oppressed people, I should say. Um, because yeah, the context missing. There's no build up to that, and I was watching with my friend Jeffrey, who was a bit annoyed by the again, spoiler alert, the appearance of Supergirl at the end. Millie Alcock showed up. Um, and as you know, Supergirl will have her own movie next year, starring Millie Alcock. And my friend Jeffrey's like, "Well, what's the context there? Like, really, why was she there? Like, but I liked it. I liked that appearance because it's not well, because one, it's not part of a post-credit scene. We don't have to wait for the entire credit rolls to actually see her, you know. And it's a nice teaser. It makes you excited about the Supergirl movie. You know, that's what that teaser does. But to him, to my friend, in my friend Jeffrey's opinion, there needs to be context to that appearance of Supergirl. But to me, the one that bugs me is that the missing context is the one that surrounds the whole nation against nation scenario. So that's what bothers. The whole immigration theme as well. It's a bit shoehorn. Later on, Superman mentioned something about, like, oh yeah, that's what makes, uh, that's why you're wrong, Lex. I may be an alien, but I'm human. But that theme, the immigrant theme thing, is not consistent. But this is the problem with some creatives like James Gunn. There some people are just good at one thing and they're not good at another, and that's fine. In the case of James Gunn, he's good at filmmaking and comic books. This movie is um, terrifically comic book accurate in many ways. Um, on the other hand, James Gunn is not very in tune politics wise, or news wise, or current events wise. So his view of Gaza Israel conflict, or his view of Ukraine Russia conflict, or his view on immigration, based on what he saw on the news, perhaps, is very surfacey, and he's putting that in this movie, and it comes across as very simplistic. It's very simple, and it's just a way um, to raise the stakes for Superman. That's all it is. I guess you could call it a plot device, if you will. Uh, but then at the same time, though, on the other hand, I get it. I understand, because another thing that I like about this film is that it's not an origin story. You know, the narrative of the movie kind of picks up at the time when Lex and versus Superman is already a thing. that Lex versus Superman is already a thing. They're into their few years now of battling each other, and I like that. That's refreshing. That's something different. So because when it comes to origin story, it's like it's about the potentials, what could be. Whereas this, it's not about, oh, maybe it could grow into this, or maybe no, because it has already grown into that. Their resentment against each other is already fully formed. Lex is already fully determined to battle a Superman, and Superman is already in the position of like, what, I gotta set Lex straight. So it's not about what could become anymore. So it's already what is, and I like that. It's different. At the same time, though, that's also why there's that missing context problem, because it doesn't show um, some of the what leads up to that. You know, um, if this was a series, if this was a TV series, this would be like episode 5. You know what I'm saying, or episode 6. If you get my point. Now, the last thing I want to say is, because one of my concerns is uh, there were, maybe there are going to be so many characters here. There's Green Lantern, there's Hawk Girl, there's Mr. Terrific. A lot of movies out there suffer from having or featuring so many characters. For example, Spider-Man 3, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3 is an example. Oh my God, what's gonna happen with Superman? This supposed to be a standalone. Why does it have to be so? All these other guys here, but James Gunn found a way to make it balanced. And Green Lantern, Hawk Girl, and Mister Terrific's contributions and their scenes are very strategically placed. And they actually they fit the overarching arc of Superman's journey here, where they did not steal the spotlight or anything like that. They really function as supporting characters to Superman, and that's what I like about it. And Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner was perfect. That was a perfect casting if I ever seen one. So yeah, uh, it's not a. I mean, the movie has its flaws. It has its shortcomings. The reasons I mentioned to you. But overall, I find it also spectacular and fun and thrilling and hopeful and bright and heroic. You really feel for the guy, and you find yourself cheering for Superman. I like it. You know, um, I mean, with this movie, the future of James Gunn's new DCU is very, very, totally bright. So that's it. That's my very long out of the theater reaction to James Gunn's new movie, Superman. What other spoilers I could say? Oh, spoiler alert. Um, Superman is fighting his own clone in this one, which is why I said earlier comic book accurate, because I think in the comic books Lex did, also take, or clone Superman, and that has been also in the previous movies, right, with the strain of hair and everything. So this thing where Superman fights his own clone kind of reminds me also about um the movie Logan. Remember that, when at the end Wolverine kind of fought his own clone. So that kind of reminds me of that. But the action scenes in Superman were also epic and massive, and I like that Superman in this one really cared for every single living being, even a squirrel. So unlike Man of Steel, where in his fight against Zod, all the buildings crumble and crush down, and all the people in the buildings die, and he snaps Zod's, nothing like that. This is the complete opposite. Again, not to poo-poo Zack Snyder's Superman, um, but I like that we're going back to this uh, Superman that reminds us of the good, cheerful Boy Scout days of Christopher Reeve Superman. So I like it. I like it. Again, it has its flaws, it has its shortcomings, but ultimately I enjoyed it. So that's it. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Let's rock this.